In 1873, Claude Monet painted this street scene of Paris that was so blurry and chaotic, art critics actually insulted it.
Oh, yeah. They completely tore it apart.
Right. They thought it was just unfinished. But what those critics didn't realize was that Monet hadn't painted a bad picture at all. He had accidentally created a perfectly precise blueprint of human neurology.
Which is just wild to think about.
It really is. And today, modern biomechanics experts are actually using that exact painting, along with a few other, 19th century Impressionist masterpieces, to decode how your brain and body navigate the physical world.
Yeah, and I mean, it sounds like a totally strange crossover, right? Putting oil paintings and clinical neuroscience in the exact same room.
Definitely. We usually treat art as this purely emotional experience.
Exactly. And biomechanics is just sterile data. But there's this fascinating curriculum put together by Dr. Christophe Delong in Formation that proves these two fields are actually observing the exact same human phenomena. They're just, using different tools. Their specific module is titled Day 4, The Fleetingness of Gesture, and it literally treats Impressionist art as functional working models of human movement.
And that intersection is exactly what we're exploring with you today. We're doing a deep dive into how 4 specific masterpieces of Paris streets basically serve as the ultimate study of urban walking.
It's a really unique way to look at how we move.
Right. Dr. Delong and Kinexa use these paintings to explain the neuroaesthetics of navigating a city. Okay, let's unpack this. To understand how they extract clinical data from a 150-year-old canvas, we really have to start with the big picture, right?
We do. We have to start with the macro view of a city crowd.
Which takes us straight back to that heavily criticized painting from 1873, Claude Monet's Boulevard des Capucines.
Yeah, to really grasp the science Kinexa is applying here, you have to visualize what Monet actually put on that canvas.
Right.
He painted the scene from a high balcony, looking down at this bustling Paris boulevard. If you zoom in on the pedestrians, there are no individual faces.
None at all.
Right, there are no distinct coats or shoes or anything. The people are just rendered as these rapid, vibrating chromatic spots.
Like a blur.
Exactly. It's essentially just a blurry, vibrating mass of dark and light brushstrokes.
He wasn't painting individual citizens at all. I mean, he was painting the collective kinetic energy of the street.
Yeah.
And it feels overwhelming just to look at, which actually mirrors the cognitive load of standing on a real city corner,
Absolutely. If you're trying to cross a really busy intersection, your brain is taking in an astronomical amount of data.
Right.
If it actually tried to calculate the facial expressions and, the clothing patterns and the exact walking speed of all 300 people in your field of vision.
You just short circuit.
You would.
Yeah.
The processing power required would cause a massive cognitive bottleneck. You would just freeze in the middle of the street.
So how do we not freeze?
Well, the human brain avoids that bottleneck through a highly efficient filtering mechanism. And that's exactly what Monet captured. When you're faced with that level of visual density, your brain switches into a global processing mode.
Okay.
The dorsal visual cortex takes over. In neurology, we often call the dorsal stream the where pathway.
The where pathway as opposed to the what pathway.
Exactly. Its job is not to identify who or what is in the crowd. That would be the ventral stream's job.
Got it.
The dorsal stream only cares about spatial flow. It analyzes the overall direction of the mass and the density of the movement.
It's kind of like looking at a rushing river, right? Like you don't track the individual drops of water.
No, of course not.
You just read the current. You see where the water is going.
That is a perfect analogy.
Yeah.
And by blurring out the individuals and only focusing on the flow, the dorsal stream is essentially saving processing power for the rest of the brain.
Oh, wow. So it frees up the prefrontal cortex.
Exactly. It frees it up so you can actually still remember where you're trying to walk, rather than getting totally hypnotized by everyone around you.
That makes total sense. So how does this apply to actual physical movement, like Kinexa's work?
Well, that conservation of cognitive energy translates directly into physical energy conservation.
Okay.
By reading the overarching flow, rather than those microscopic details, your nervous system extracts what we call a vital motor signal.
A motor signal.
Yeah, this allows your body to engage in rhythmic adaptation. You intuitively adjust your walking pace to match the group.
Oh, so you find the path of least resistance without even consciously charting it out?
Precisely. Flowing with the crowd instead of fighting it is just a massive evolutionary advantage in terms of calorie expenditure.
Which brings us to the clinical side of Kinexa's work. I mean, they aren't just using Monet as a metaphor, right? They're actually measuring this exact mechanism.
They are. In a clinical or rehabilitative setting, they evaluate a person's sensory integration in dynamic environments. They test how well a patient's brain filters out that visual noise to extract the essential motor signal.
So if someone is recovering from a neurological issue,
Right, if their dorsal stream struggles to filter the noise, like if their brain keeps trying to identify every single person in the crowd rather than just reading the global flow, they become totally visually overwhelmed.
and their rhythmic adaptation just fails.
Exactly. Walking down a busy sidewalk suddenly becomes this mentally and physically exhausting task.
That sounds awful.
It is, but by understanding the failure of this filtering mechanism, clinicians can design targeted therapies to help the brain relearn how to, you know, see the forest instead of the trees.
That is incredible. But filtering the noise is really just a crucial first step, because even if your brain successfully reads the flow of the crowd, gravity is still a factor.
Oh, always.
The brain still has to solve the purely physical problem of keeping you upright in an environment that is constantly moving. And staying upright in chaos requires a completely different neurological trick, which smoothly transitions us to the second Monet painting, Rue Montorgueil, painted in 1878.
And the environment in this piece is significantly more intense than the first one.
It really is. I mean, it was painted during a national holiday, and the street is just packed with a cheering mob.
Yeah.
But the dominant visual feature isn't the people, it's the flags. There are dozens of these bright red, white, and blue tricolor flags hanging from all the buildings, creating this explosion of intense color.
It's incredibly chaotic.
Yeah, but the composition is heavily organized by the strong vertical lines of the flags, right?
Yeah.
And the tall architecture of the buildings flanking the street.
What's fascinating here is the neurobiology of organized chaos.
Okay, break that down for us.
Well, when you're in an environment that's visually saturated, your nervous system actually faces a massive conflict. Your body relies on three main systems to maintain postural balance.
The vestibular system in your inner ear, right?
Right. And the proprioceptive sensors in your muscles and joints. And finally, your vision.
And vision can easily be tricked.
Oh, very easily. If you're standing still, but a dense crowd is rushing past you horizontally, your eyes signal to your brain that the world is moving sideways.
Oh, it's like being on a stationary train when the train next to you pulls away.
Yes.
For a second, you completely feel like you are the one moving.
Exactly. That illusion of movement is called vection. And in a crowded street, it can completely destabilize your postural balance.
Because your brain feels like it's falling over.
Right. So to counter this, the nervous system desperately hunts for fixed vertical lines.
Because gravity is vertical.
You got it. Gravity is vertical, so vertical lines are the brain's most reliable plumb line. The flags in Monet's painting, the edges of the stone buildings, these serve as visual anchors.
Wow.
Your nervous system locks onto those vertical structures to confirm true verticality, and that overrides the confusing horizontal motion of the crowd at ground level.
So you're saying that by simply looking at a flagpole, my brain is secretly preventing me from falling over in a crowded street.
That is exactly what I'm saying.
That is wild. It's kind of similar to, well, standing on the deck of a ship in rough seas, right?
How so?
Like if you stare down at the chaotic water or the moving deck, you'll lose your balance and get seasick. But if you look out and lock your eyes onto the stable horizontal line of the horizon, your brain suddenly knows which way is up.
And your body stabilizes.
Yes.
Monet basically painted the urban equivalent of the horizon line.
He painted the exact visual anchors that prevent the crowd from toppling over.
And frequent exposure to dense but structured urban environments actually trains the human brain to prioritize these stimuli. We learn to unconsciously ignore the horizontal chaos of the pedestrians and prioritize the vertical stability of the architecture.
And Kinexa actually specifically evaluates this, right? They take this concept into the lab.
They do. They evaluate postural stability under intense sensory load. Because if a patient is a fall risk, the root cause might not actually be weak leg muscles.
It could be a sensory conflict.
Exactly. They test a patient's ability to maintain a stable bodily axis when their visual field is overwhelmed. They want to see if the nervous system can instinctively find and utilize those vertical anchors.
And if they can't?
If a patient gets lost in the horizontal chaos and cannot lock onto a vertical stabilizer, their walking becomes erratic. So Monet's Rue Montorgueil serves as this conceptual stress test for the human vestibular and visual systems.
It illustrates the exact threshold where visual overload threatens physical stability.
Precisely.
So we know how the brain filters the crowd to save processing power, and we know how it uses architecture to keep us from falling over.
Right.
But staying upright is really only half the battle. how does the brain actually coordinate the physical propulsion forward? We need to pivot from the macro survival skills of the crowd down to the micromechanics of a single footstep.
And to examine that, Dr. Delong and Kinexa shift our focus from Monet to Pierre-Auguste Renoir,
Oh, okay.
specifically his 1872 painting, Le Pont Neuf.
And the perspective shifts dramatically with Renoir. Like, we are no longer looking down from a high, distant window. This scene was painted from a cafe terrace,
Right near ground
it's
level.
looking across a bridge. Because the viewpoint is closer, the pedestrians are distinct individuals here. But the true genius of the piece is how they're captured. Renoir froze them mid-gesture.
He really did.
You see a man stepping off a curb with his weight shifted forward, a woman mid-stride with her skirt trailing behind her.
And without the benefit of modern high-speed cameras, Renoir inadvertently created a masterclass in the kinematics of the step.
The kinematics of the step.
Yeah, in biomechanics, a walking stride is a highly complex repetitive motor sequence. It consists of the stance phase, where the foot is planted and absorbing weight,
Okay.
the swing phase, where the leg is oscillating forward, and the delicate transfer of weight from the heel to the toe.
By painting dozens of people at different exact milliseconds of their stride, Renoir documented the entire motor sequence frame by frame. Here's where it gets really interesting. Looking at Le Pont Neuf is remarkably similar to looking at early stop-motion biomechanical analysis.
Oh, definitely.
Like those famous late 19th century photographs by Edouard Muybridge. You know, the ones that captured a horse galloping frame by frame?
Oh yeah, the Muybridge horses.
Renoir essentially did that with a paintbrush. The source material highlights the precise mechanics he caught. The moment a heel strikes the paving stones, the rolling transfer of force through the arch of the foot, the final push-off from the toe.
It's all there.
He even captured the relaxed hips and the natural counter swing of the arms, which are vital for maintaining rotational balance.
And this brings up the neurological phenomenon of apparent motion.
What's that?
Well, when you look at Renoir's static painting, your brain doesn't just register a collection of frozen statues. It automatically stitches those distinct silhouettes together to reconstitute a feeling of continuous fluid motion.
Oh, wow.
The visual cortex bridges the gaps between the frozen frames, essentially doing the work of a film projector.
But breaking it down frame by frame also exposes just how wildly complicated a single footstep is.
It really is.
It highlights the fact that fluid walking is this incredibly intricate choreography that our nervous system has completely automated.
The level of automation is staggering. I mean,
Yeah.
you don't have to consciously command your left heel to strike at a specific angle,
Right.
or tell your right arm to swing forward to counter the rotation of your left hip.
Yeah.
If you had to actively manage those micro adjustments, the cognitive demand would leave you unable to do anything else.
You wouldn't even be able to talk while walking.
Exactly. And Kinexa utilizes Renoir's stop-motion principle directly in their clinical assessment.
Oh, really? How so?
By analyzing the frozen moments within a patient's walking cycle, they can assess mechanical symmetry. They break down a patient's gait frame by frame using modern motion capture or force plates,
Okay.
isolating the exact angle of the heel strike, the duration of the weight transfer, and the symmetry of the stride length.
And finding a micro asymmetry isn't just about, like, perfecting someone's walking form, right? It's about detecting underlying issues.
Oh, absolutely.
Like, if a patient's left heel strikes the ground a fraction of a second earlier than their right, what does that actually tell a clinician?
It reveals invisible postural compensations. A premature heel strike or shortened stance phase often indicates that the body is subconsciously shifting weight to avoid pain in a joint.
Like maybe the opposite knee or hip?
Exactly. And over thousands of steps a day, that tiny compensation puts abnormal stress on other parts of the musculoskeletal system, which leads to chronic wear and tear.
And the naked eye usually just misses these compensations in real-time fluid motion.
It completely misses them. But just as Renoir captured the imperceptible mechanics of an everyday gesture, Kinexa isolates these micro moments to catch pathological patterns before they cause severe structural damage.
That is brilliant. Okay, so taking those individual perfectly timed footsteps and actually pointing them in the right direction requires a different kind of neurological processing altogether.
It does.
We've looked at the isolated step. Now we need to zoom all the way out to see how the brain maps the overall journey.
We need to see how the filtered noise, the vertical anchors, and the synchronized footsteps all interact in physical space.
Right, which brings us to the fourth and final painting curated by Dr. Delong, Camille Pissarro's La Place du Théâtre Français from 1898.
And the perspective here is zenithal.
Yeah, it is this sweeping aerial vision. You're looking almost straight down at a massive Paris plaza. It's a breathtaking composition, completely composed of sweeping, curved lines.
Yeah, the flow is incredible.
You see the pedestrians, the horse-drawn carriages, the deliberate placement of the trees, and the curving edges of the sidewalks. Functionally, it doesn't look like a chaotic street-level view at all. It looks like a dynamic, living map.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, that overhead perspective is vital because it visualizes exactly how the parietal cortex operates within the human brain.
The parietal cortex, that sits near the top and back of the brain, right?
Yes. And it serves as the command center for spatial navigation and proprioception.
Which is your bodily awareness in space.
Exactly. When you're walking through a complex environment, your parietal cortex is generating a real-time, top-down map of the area, much like Pissarro's painting.
It's kind of like playing a video game where you pull up a mini-map in the corner of the screen.
That is exactly what it's like. Even though your physical eyes are at ground level, dealing with immediate obstacles, your parietal cortex is simultaneously running a top-down simulation to track where everything else in the environment is moving.
And by maintaining that spatial map, you aren't just reacting to the person immediately in front of you.
No, your brain is calculating the trajectories of the vehicles in the intersection, the density of the pedestrians gathering near the crosswalk, and the curvature of the street ahead.
It's a system built entirely on anticipation.
Anticipation is what allows the human body to move with maximum economy. By mapping the trajectories of the living environment, your brain plots the most efficient course forward.
You unconsciously alter your trajectory to avoid a bottleneck long before you actually reach it.
Right. You seamlessly curve your path to match the flow of the plaza.
But if the parietal cortex fails to maintain this map, that anticipation breaks down.
Completely breaks down. You would constantly bump into people, make sudden stops, and walk in jagged, inefficient lines.
Because you're only reacting to immediate visual stimuli rather than planning a cohesive route.
Exactly. And for Kinexa, this spatial awareness represents the ultimate synthesis of their clinical work. They take all the individual data points.
Like how well a patient filters sensory noise.
Their reliance on vertical anchors for stability.
And the biomechanical symmetry of their step.
Right. And they map that individual motor flow with the exact same precision Pissarro used to map the Paris Plaza.
They treat the human body's movement through space as a dynamic, measurable map.
Every slight deviation in a patient's trajectory, every micro-hesitation before stepping over an obstacle, every sudden acceleration or deceleration, it's all captured.
So Pissarro painted a map of the living city, but Kinexa generates an actionable, clinical map of the living nervous system trying to navigate that city.
You nailed it. By analyzing a patient's spatial trajectory, they can pinpoint exactly where the neurological automation is breaking down.
You know, the curriculum designed by Dr. Christophe Delong in Kinexa Formation fundamentally changes the way you think about a simple walk down the street.
It really does.
We started with Monet's vibrating crowds, discovering how the dorsal stream filters out overwhelming details so our cognitive processing doesn't crash.
Yeah, that filtering is so crucial.
And then we learned how our vestibular system hunts for the vertical anchors of architecture to keep us balanced against the illusion of movement.
And then we examined the kinematics of a single step through Renoir's stop-motion observations,
Right.
revealing the complex, automated choreography of the gait cycle. And finally, we saw how the parietal cortex acts as a top-down spatial map, allowing us to anticipate trajectories and move efficiently through Pissarro's sweeping urban ballet.
So, what does this all mean? It reveals that the mundane act of walking is actually a wildly complex feat of neurological engineering, executed flawlessly by your body every single day. Art and biomechanics aren't separate domains.
Not at all.
They're just different languages describing the exact same human experience.
It truly is a miracle of automation. But understanding how much work the brain is doing behind the scenes brings up a really interesting final thought.
Oh, what's that?
Well, the source material establishes that fluid walking relies entirely on this subconscious automation, right?
Right. We don't actively think about the dorsal stream or the mechanics of our heel strike.
Exactly. But what happens when you intentionally disrupt that system?
Oh, okay. Like the next time you find yourself walking through a dense, busy crowd, try a small experiment.
Yeah. Force your conscious mind to take over the automation. Think actively about every single phase of your stride.
Dictate the exact moment your heel hits the ground, the roll of your arch, the push of your toe, and the counterswing of your arms.
Will forcing your prefrontal cortex to manage the biomechanics make you move with the effortless captured grace of Renoir's subjects?
Or will overthinking the blueprint disrupt the natural flow, causing you to stumble in the chaotic ballet of the city?
It's a fun thing to try, but I guarantee you'll probably stumble.
Sometimes the most complex systems work best when we just get out of our own way. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the fleetingness of gesture. Keep exploring, keep questioning, and we'll see you next time.